we're working on hitting your macros. Now, when I talk about macros, I'm talking about the three major energy sources for the body, and that is proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Especially important in that, and I want to talk about today, is protein intake. Now, protein is essential for cellular and tissue regeneration, growth, and recovery. Protein is present in all of the cells of the body, and we have to have it to keep functioning. Now, there are several side effects if you are protein deficient. I want you to check out the link I've attached to this post and this video so you can see my blog, and I talk in a little bit more detail about this phase of the challenge and the effects of protein deficiency. But as an overview, it can cause some mood swings, it can cause problems with hair, skin and nails, it can really affect your recovery, it can inhibit your ability to lose weight as well, and it can also be a cause for you to get ill more often and struggle with your performance. So like I say, check out my blog for a bit more information. In terms of what we're specifically looking for with this challenge, for most of us, it's about improving our performance and also changing our body composition or getting leaner for most people, or just gaining muscle for others. Now, as I said earlier, protein is essential for muscular or tissue and cellular regeneration, and that applies to muscles. We have to have protein for our muscles to be able to repair, to be able to grow, and to be able to recover, and for our body to be able to recover as well. So if we're not having enough protein in our diet, we won't recover well from workouts, and therefore we won't be able to hit those workouts as hard each time because we just won't be as recovered. And in addition, our muscles won't grow as effectively as if you had adequate amounts of protein. In terms of getting leaner, so if we're not just talking about your muscles growing and that obviously making you more metabolic, burning more calories on a daily basis, and therefore being able to use up more energy and hopefully there lose fat. If you don't have enough protein in your diet, your body won't lose fat. And the reason for that is when you have protein, your body will release a chemical or a hormone called glucagon, and that glucagon is a signaler for your fat cells to release those cells into the bloodstream to be used as energy. So in other words, you will burn fat using glucagon. If your protein intake is overwhelmed by the carbohydrate intake, especially starchy carbohydrates that are high on the glycemic index, in other words, they massively raise your blood sugar levels and therefore cause you to release amounts of insulin, that glucagon will be blocked and that fat loss will be inhibited. So it's really important that the balance of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats are correct. Now, how much protein is enough? As a general rule, for most people looking for performance, I like to see 1.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight as a minimum requirement. So if you weigh 70 kilos, that means you should be having 105 grams of protein per day as a minimum. How I balance that out through our daily diet is the first thing I want to do is obviously make sure that you know the protein number you need to be hitting as a minimum. And then I like to see the macronutrient balance in most people's daily diet and most people's meals of about 1/3 protein, 1/3 fats, and 1/3 carbohydrates. When I'm talking about 1/3, I don't mean that it's 1/3 of the grams, I mean it's 1/3 of the calories. So if you're eating, let's say, we'll keep it simple, 1,500 calories per day, then 500 calories should come from protein, 500 calories should come from fat, and 500 calories should come from carbohydrates. So again, check out my blog because I've actually put the calculations on there in more detail, but very simply, it's around 125 grams of protein and carbohydrates because each gram of protein and carbohydrate releases 4 calories of energy. In terms of your fat number, that's going to be less. I think it's about 53 grams, produces about 500 grams of 500 calories. So because every gram of fat releases 9 calories of energy. So it's 54 grams. There we are. So 1/3 is a great way to plan your meals and your daily intake of protein. And I say your meals as well because it's you can't have just protein for breakfast, just carbohydrates for lunch, and just fats for dinner. And I want to keep it nice and simple. I don't want to talk about meal timings or anything like that, or the effect on workouts. That's something we can add on in the future. For now, I just want you to get in the habit of getting those three numbers correct. So if we establish, let's say we establish that we need 105 grams of protein per day as a minimum, okay, for someone who is 70 kilos. And we work out that they're having 1,500 calories as their daily calorie requirement. So if we divide, the 500 into each category, so 500 calories protein, carbs, and fats, that means that we're comfortably hitting the protein requirements by doing that, because we'll be having 125 grams of protein per day for that, and we'll be having 125 grams of carbs, and then we know fat's 54. So that's absolutely fine. So for most people, just by splitting your macronutrient balance to a third, a third, and a third, you will hit your protein numbers. The times where there might be exceptions will be times where people are consuming large amounts of calories. So, 3,500, 4,000 calories per day. People that are trying to get bigger, trying to bulk up, they may hit numbers that are too extreme in terms of protein. So if that's the case, if you are having to have enormous amounts of calories, I don't really like to see people having much more than 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. So once you get into that, to numbers greater than that, I think you should just stop at around that number or somewhere around there. And then you would make up the rest of your calories, not by having carbohydrates, where most people go, but actually by increasing your fat intake. If you are in the other extreme and you are having a low calorie diet, say you're a smaller person, especially a female, and your calorie levels are super, super low, then what we would do is we'd hit the percentage of protein that we need to hit your minimum protein target. And then whatever's remaining, say for example, you have to have 50% of your diet as protein to be able to hit your minimum required protein target, then for the rest of the percentage, we'll split that in half. So if you're having 50% of your diet as protein, you'll have then 25% as carbohydrates and 25% as fats. I hope that kind of makes sense to you guys. Now, what I want you to do for this week is to start, first of all, working out your protein requirements. Then I want you to work out from there a third, a third, a third, and make sure that you're doing that. By doing that, you're hitting that protein requirement, or make the changes that I suggest. Then we're going to start adding the plan in place. So you're going to plan through the day your meals, and we're looking at, like I say, trying to keep that balance throughout every meal, rather than having one meal that's high carb, one meal that's high fat, and one meal that's high protein. So we're trying to stick around that number for all those meals. And that doesn't need to be an exact science. It doesn't matter if one meal is 40, 30, 30, or even 50, 25, 25, and then the next meal is, different macros. But if we're aiming to hit that, and if we hit it for the day, we've done well. I've put 3 examples of an example of each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, onto my blog. So hopefully that'll give you some help as well. One thing I want to talk about at the end, though, is vegans. And I have no issues with the vegan diet, but you do have to take into consideration when you are a vegan that the amount of protein you require is actually greater than someone who eats animal products. The reason for that is that when you have plant-based proteins, none of them, including soy, are complete proteins. None of them contain enough of the 9 essential amino acids. Now, the essential amino acids are the amino acids that your body cannot produce itself, so you have to have them through food. No plant-based protein gives you a complete amino acid profile. Some of them give you all 9 amino acids, but not in the quantities that are required to be considered complete. And that's the same for soy. The only time that soy can hit that is sometimes when you get genetically modified soy. Now, I don't know what your views on genetically modified food. I don't have enough information on it myself to make a judgment, but if you're happy having GMO'd soy in your diet, then that's absolutely fine. Maybe they've got those numbers up, so you have got a complete profile. But most of the time, it isn't the case, and therefore that means that if you think about every protein you're having, when you look at protein on a packet or the amount of protein, say in a bean that you're having, and you put that into MyFitnessPal, yes, it will give you a protein number that says, let's say your daily intake might have been 100 grams of protein, but that won't be every amino acid in there that you're getting in each of those proteins. So therefore, that is a little bit false and misleading into how much protein your intake is that day. And actually, there's some studies into vegan protein supplements, so protein powders, those sort of things. In people taking those, the muscular protein synthesis on vegan protein supplements is as low as 50% of that of whey-based protein. So they were finding that basically the muscles were absorbing 50% less protein from the vegan sources. And that's just purely because of the amino acid profile of those. Doesn't mean that you can't have enough protein on a vegan diet. It just means you need to be aware of that and consume more. So as a guide, if I talked about 1.5 grams per kilo of body weight for people that eat animal products, for vegans, that needs to be up to 2 grams. So that means you have a minimum of 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. And that number, when I talked about, okay, I don't like to see people having more than 2 grams per kilo of body weight. Well, for vegans, that upper limit I would put at 2.5 grams per kilo of body weight, just because of the quality of protein. You could even probably go a little bit higher on that, but you'll find it incredibly difficult to probably get too high on protein if you are vegan. So really be aware of that, because that's a super important issue if you are looking at your numbers and putting them into MyFitnessPal, because the numbers that you see on packets when it's got protein, because that protein is, even if it is complete in as a source of food, because they've blended the proteins together, you're not getting that same amount of amino acids as you would if you were just having an animal product. Like I say, so just be aware of that if you are vegan, that you need a greater intake of protein. So there's your challenge for phase 4. It's all about hitting your macros. This is the real meat of the challenge. This is where we wanted to get get people onto that habit. And this is what you need to be sticking with post the challenge, really. You need to be looking at staying around those numbers post challenge. It can vary from person to person. But what I will say is, if you are a high carb eater right now, so if you started and put stuff in MyFitnessPal and you saw that you were, in this 50% carbohydrate category or 60% carbohydrate category, and you cut that out now in this first week, you will have some side effects. You will feel that. If you did the no booze, no sugar challenge, where you cut sugar out and cut booze out and maybe cut bread out, you would have had that drop. You may still have that symptoms of, not quite as severe, but like the keto flu, where you feel a little bit like lack of energy, lethargic, and maybe even a bit lightheaded. That is just your body adapting to the lack of carbohydrates. It's so used to having those big spikes of carbohydrates in every meal that when you take that out, your body's having withdrawal symptoms from that. So if you do have withdrawal symptoms from this, then it's indicated that maybe you need to look at what your carbohydrate intake was going forwards. Give it a go, guys. Make sure you're doing some measurements of your own for your body metrics or whatever you're looking as a measure of improvements. It might be performance as well. You might want to set some benchmarks and see how you feel. And stick with that. So we're looking at a third of protein, third of fats, third of carbohydrate. Plan it on MyFitnessPal. Do your food shop. Stick to it. And let's see what results we're going to get.